It's the middle of the night, and the Monjasa reformer cuts through the dark waters of the Gulf of Guinea. Suddenly, a fast boat appears on the radar, and then silence. The radio goes quiet, and the oil tanker vanishes like a ghost. What happened that night? Armed pirates seize control, kidnap crew members, and turn the Gulf of Guinea into the stage for one of the most tense and mysterious stories of 2023. But what really happened aboard the Monjasa reformer? How can a ship of this size simply disappear? And what happened to the kidnapped sailors? Get ready to dive into a tale of suspense, danger, and secrets on the high seas. But let me warn you, what happened to the Monjasa reformer is far scarier than it seems. The Gulf of Guinea is renowned for its breathtaking beauty. Its clear waters, teeming with marine life, contrast sharply with the bustling ports and ships that navigate the region daily. But behind this idyllic scene lies a harsh reality. Sailing through the Gulf of Guinea is as dangerous as walking alone down a dark alley in a violent city. Only here, the predators are armed to the teeth. And this isn't new. In 2023, statistics showed that 75% of global maritime kidnappings occurred in this area. That's right, 3 out of 4 incidents at sea happened here. For sailors and shipping companies, passing through these waters is like traversing a predator-filled jungle. But why has this region, so vital to global trade, become a hotspot for modern piracy? To understand, we need to dive into the heart of this story. The attack on the Monjasa reformer, an oil tanker that disappeared in broad daylight, leaving the entire world without answers. The Monjasa reformer, a Liberian-flagged oil tanker, was navigating a routine route in the Gulf of Guinea, carrying fuel and operated by a crew of 16 sailors. For privacy and security reasons, the names of the captain and crew are not disclosed, but we know they were experienced professionals, accustomed to the challenges of a region that blends intense trade with constant danger. Equipped with modern navigation technology and tracking systems, the Monjasa reformer seemed prepared to handle any eventuality. But on March 25, 2023, something inexplicable happened. The ship lost contact with maritime authorities, and its tracking system was disabled, disappearing from monitoring networks. Now, imagine the impact of this. A large oil tanker, with a full crew aboard, vanishes without a trace in an area patrolled by international forces. How is this possible? My friends, this marked the beginning of one of the most tense and mysterious tales of modern maritime history. On March 25, 2023, the crew of the Monjasa reformer embarked on what was expected to be another routine journey. The ship was sailing about 140 nautical miles from Pointe Noire in the Republic of Congo, a route frequently used by tankers and cargo ships. The weather was stable. Onboard operations continued as usual, and the last radio communication indicated everything was normal. For the sailors, it was just another crossing, with their biggest concern being to stay on schedule. But, as seasoned mariners say, the sea is treacherous. In calm waters, the greatest dangers can lie hidden. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly, the Monjasa reformer's radio fell silent, as if someone had severed its connection to the rest of the world. What followed was swift and terrifying. A group of armed pirates approached the tanker in a fast boat. They weren't just armed, they were organized, displaying precision that suggested careful planning. The deck creaked under hurried boots, and shouts in a foreign language pierced the night's silence. For the sailors, there was nowhere to run. The crew of the Monjasa reformer had no chance to react. Within minutes, the pirates boarded the ship, overpowering the sailors and taking control of the vessel. 6 crew members were kidnapped while the rest were left aboard, terrified and unequipped to act. Can you imagine the panic among the sailors? They were aboard a modern ship, equipped with systems designed to protect them, yet they were overrun by criminals in the middle of the ocean. It was like a nightmare on the high seas, a painful reminder that security in the Gulf of Guinea remains a daunting challenge for maritime commerce. Let me remind you, The Gulf of Guinea isn't just a dangerous place, it's also crucial to the global economy. This region handles billions of dollars in oil, gas, and other goods annually. As a result, attacks like this one have impacts that go far beyond the targeted ship. Pirates don't just kidnap crew members and steal goods, they instill fear, destabilizing entire commercial routes in the region. This is why modern piracy in the Gulf of Guinea is considered an international threat, requiring joint action among nations and shipping companies to protect crews. After the attack, the Monjasa Reformer simply disappeared. Its tracking system was disabled, leaving the ship untraceable on maritime monitoring networks. No signals, no alerts, nothing from a vessel that was previously under constant observation by maritime traffic operators. Now, let's imagine together a large oil tanker with 16 crew members, a valuable fuel cargo, and modern navigation systems disappears as though swallowed by the ocean. How can this happen in one of the most patrolled regions in the world? The disappearance began to put international authorities on high alert. Warships and maritime patrol aircraft launched an extensive search, but for days, the Monjasa Reformer remained like a ghost, lost in the vast waters of the Gulf of Guinea. The first response came from the French Navy, which has a significant presence in the region. With support from other maritime authorities, they began sweeping the Gulf of Guinea. São Tomé and Príncipe, a small island nation near the disappearance area, became the focal point of investigations. But there was a problem. The pirates left no trace. By disabling the ship's tracking systems, they had made it significantly harder for authorities to locate the vessel. Without a clear lead, the search became a race against time. Meanwhile, tension mounted. The remaining crew was in danger, and the whereabouts of the 6 kidnapped sailors remained a complete mystery. My friends, imagine the despair of families, waiting for news, while the ocean seemed to guard all its secrets. One question that always arises in cases like this is, how can such a large ship vanish? The answer lies in technology, or the lack thereof. Modern systems like AIS, Automatic Identification System, are mandatory for tracking ships, but they can be manually disabled. And that's exactly what the pirates did. Without this system, finding the Monjasa Reformer was like searching for a needle in a haystack, especially in a vast region filled with other vessels. This technique is a common trick used by pirates to evade detection. But time was running out, and authorities knew that every lost minute made the rescue mission more difficult. After days of intense searching, a lead finally emerged. On March 30th, 2023, the Monjasa Reformer was located near the waters of São Tomé and Príncipe, a small island nation in the Gulf of Guinea. The discovery was made by the French Navy, which had expanded its patrols in the region. However, the scene they found was puzzling. The Monjasa Reformer was abandoned, floating adrift. Of the 16 crew members, only 10 were found on board, frightened but unharmed, and the 6 kidnapped. Sailors, there was no sign of them. For the Navy, the situation was alarming. The ship appeared intact, showing no signs of struggle, as if the pirates had simply vanished along with the hostages. This lack of clues made the case even more mysterious. On board the Monjasa Reformer, the remaining crew was exhausted and emotionally shaken. They reported that the pirates had left the ship without warning, taking the 6 hostages with them. Beyond this, details were scarce. The sailors described the pirates as organized and cold, but no one knew exactly where they had taken the hostages or why. The ship's cargo was also untouched, ruling out fuel theft as the primary motive. The lack of information heightened the tension. Why had the pirates chosen to kidnap only part of the crew? Where did they take them? And what did they want? Cases of piracy where ships are abandoned after an attack are not uncommon. Typically, this happens for 2 main reasons: logistics and discretion. Maintaining control over a large ship like the Monjasa Reformer requires resources and trained crew, which many pirate groups lack. Additionally, the longer they keep the ship, the greater the risk of being tracked. For this reason, their objective is often to capture hostages or cargo and disappear as quickly as possible. However, in this case, the decision to abandon the ship intact and kidnap only part of the crew was an unusual and much more disturbing strategy. The 6 crew members kidnapped from the Monjasa reformer included essential personnel for the ship's operation. For privacy and security reasons, their names were not disclosed, but it is known that the ship's captain was not among those taken. This brought a mix of relief and concern. On one hand, the captain's presence among the remaining crew helped maintain some semblance of order amidst the chaos following the attack. He took charge of the traumatized sailors, trying to calm them, and establish a strategy to handle the situation. On the other hand, the absence of the captain among the hostages indicated that the pirates had deliberately chosen whom to take. This choice was not random. Pirates often prioritize crew members with specific functions or strategic positions, such as navigation system operators or engineers, knowing they are more valuable in ransom negotiations. The remaining crew, now without means of communication and adrift, had to cope with the constant fear that the pirates might return, this time to take them as well. For the kidnapped sailors, the absence of the captain meant they were entirely on their own, without the leadership figure sailors often rely on in dangerous situations. Far from home, in an utterly hostile environment, the hostages had to find ways to survive, both physically and emotionally. Maintaining hope in such a desolate scenario is perhaps the greatest challenge one can face. Previous cases of piracy in the Gulf of Guinea reveal the psychological terror used by captors. They often threaten hostages not only with physical violence but also with the possibility of never returning home. These tactics are designed to pressure shipping companies to pay multi-million-dollar ransoms. For the hostages, every minute felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, their families endured the same ordeal on land, waiting for news. It's hard to imagine the psychological toll on both sides of this situation. Unfortunately, in the Gulf of Guinea, there are many harrowing accounts of kidnapped sailors. In many cases, hostages are released after weeks or even months of negotiations, usually in exchange for ransoms paid by companies or governments. However, not all outcomes are happy. There are records of sailors who didn't survive the brutal conditions of captivity or who were never found. This makes every case a race against time, where every wrong decision could be fatal. For the Monjasa reformer, the fate of the 6 sailors remained uncertain, and with each passing day, hope mingled with fear. Would they ever make it back home? As you already know, when it comes to piracy in the Gulf of Guinea, kidnappings rarely end with gratuitous acts of violence. That's because it's almost always a matter of money. In the case of the Monjasa reformer, the pirates' demands were not made public, but investigation suggested a multi-million-dollar ransom. Pirates understand that companies like Monjasa, which specialize in transporting fuel, have the resources to pay large sums in exchange for their sailors' lives. And for them, this isn't just a gamble, it's a proven strategy. In many similar cases, ransoms have been discreetly paid, away from the scrutiny of the press and authorities. However, this approach creates an ethical and operational dilemma. Paying the ransom can save lives, but it also funds future pirate operations. It's a difficult cycle to break, and Monjasa found itself at the center of this delicate issue. Monjasa's response to the kidnapping was discreet but deliberate. The company chose not to make public statements about negotiations, which is common in situations like this. This prevents the pirates from gaining information that could strengthen their demands and protects the sailors' families from excessive scrutiny. Rather than acting hastily, Monjasa worked directly with rescue specialists, international naval forces, and maritime security consultants. In the Gulf of Guinea, these experts play a vital role. They understand the territory, the pirates' methods, and the cultural nuances that can make a difference in a negotiation. Meanwhile, the company's silence only deepened the mystery. Were they paying the ransom? Were they planning a military rescue operation? No one knew for sure. This lack of clear information left room for speculation, but also reinforced the seriousness with which the case was being handled. The challenge of negotiating with pirates in the Gulf of Guinea is not just about money, it's a dangerous game of strategy and patience. The kidnappers know they have a temporary advantage, but, at the same time, face the risk of being located or betrayed by local informants. On the other hand, companies like Monjasa need to balance their response. If they appear hesitant or disorganized, the kidnappers might increase their demands. If they are too aggressive, they could put the hostages at risk. It's a delicate line where every move matters. In this case, the world was waiting for a swift resolution, but Monjasa's silence indicated that the outcome could take weeks or even months. After weeks of captivity, the silence was finally broken on May 8, 2023. The news came from official sources. The 6 sailors kidnapped from the Monjasa reformer had been released. But how did it happen? According to reports leaked later, negotiations had intensified in recent weeks. Rescue specialists and international authorities worked together to locate the hostages. After monitoring potential hideouts in the region, the operation finally culminated in a discreet release, with no signs of confrontation. The hostages were found in an isolated cabin in a remote area on the coast of a West African country, whose authorities chose to remain anonymous. Despite the hostile environment in which they were held, all the sailors were alive. They had survived weeks of controlled starvation, psychological terror, and constant threats, with the captors repeatedly emphasizing that ransom payment was their only chance at freedom. When rescued, the sailors, dehydrated and visibly shaken, could barely speak. Many had tears in their eyes as they clasped the hands of the military personnel who had come to their aid. For them, the worst was over, but the trauma of that period would stay with them for a long time. The rescue was just the beginning of a new chapter for the hostages. Upon landing at the airport, the scene was one of sheer relief and emotion. There were their families, who had spent weeks enduring the nightmare of not knowing whether they would see their loved ones again. One mother, clutching a letter she had written during the disappearance, told reporters she had written it to read to her son if he returned, and now she could finally hand it to him. The father of another crew member, a robust man with tears streaming down his face, could only repeat, "Oh, my son, you're back, you're back." One of the most touching moments was when the young son of one of the sailors ran into his father's arms saying, "Daddy, I knew you'd come back." Reunions like this are rare in cases of piracy, and the joy was palpable. However, behind the smiles was the weight of what they had endured. Some sailors chose not to speak to the press, while others mentioned they would need time to heal. "We're happy to be alive, but what we went through won't be easy to forget," said one of them, refusing to show his face to reporters. The role of families is often underestimated in cases of kidnapping. They not only provide emotional support to the hostages after their release, but also exert pressure on companies and governments to speed up negotiations. In the Monjasa reformer case, family members played a crucial role in keeping the incident in the headlines, ensuring it wasn't treated as just another attack in the Gulf of Guinea. The Monjasa reformer case serves as a striking reminder of the vulnerabilities that still exist in international maritime security, particularly in the Gulf of Guinea. Despite increased patrolling by European naval forces and regional cooperation, attacks like this demonstrate that pirates continue to find ways to operate in one of the world's busiest shipping corridors. One of the key lessons learned was the necessity of investing in advanced tracking technologies. Experts suggest that more sophisticated monitoring systems, such as maritime drones and autonomous radars, could help detect suspicious vessels before they approach larger ships. Additionally, there has been discussion about increasing the presence of armed security teams on oil tankers and cargo ships. However, this strategy remains controversial. Many question whether militarizing commercial vessels could create more risks than solutions, especially in politically unstable regions. The incident also highlighted the need for psychological training for crews. Sailors navigating the Gulf of Guinea face constant risks of pirate attacks, and mental preparation can make a significant difference during and after hostage situations. For Monjasa, the attack was a significant blow, not only financially, but also to its reputation. Despite the relatively positive outcome, the case exposed the vulnerabilities of large maritime transport companies and raised tough questions. Did Monjasa do enough to protect its crew before the attack? Were the security measures on board sufficient for such a dangerous region? After the rescue, the company announced a restructuring of its operations. This included reviewing the routes used in the Gulf of Guinea, reinforcing security policies, and hiring specialized consultants to prevent piracy. However, the most significant impact was on the lives of those directly involved. Many crew members, including the kidnapped sailors, chose to leave the sea after the incident. The trauma of the experience pushed them to seek new careers far from the waters that nearly took them to the edge. If you think piracy is rare, here's a surprising fact. In 2023, there were over 115 recorded attacks at sea, with the Gulf of Guinea accounting for the majority of them. Although the numbers have decreased compared to previous years, the severity of the incidents has increased. The Gulf of Guinea's strategic location makes it a key point for global trade. But why is it so vulnerable to crime? There are three main factors. Busy trade routes. Approximately 1,500 ships pass through this region daily, transporting valuable goods like oil and minerals. Porous borders. The region has an extensive, poorly monitored coastline, making it difficult to enforce laws and allowing criminal groups to operate with little interference. Economic disparity. Poverty and unemployment in many countries within the region make piracy an attractive option for those with few other opportunities. Despite international efforts to reduce attacks, the Gulf of Guinea remains one of the greatest challenges for global maritime security. The attack on the Monjasa reformer is a story that combines tension, mystery, and important lessons about the challenges of modern maritime security. From the surprise attack in the Gulf of Guinea to the hostages' release weeks later, every step of this case revealed the vulnerabilities of commercial navigation in one of the world's most dangerous regions. Despite the happy ending for the 6 kidnapped crew members, many questions remain. Why did the pirates abandon the ship? How did they choose whom to kidnap? And most importantly, how can we prevent stories like this from happening again? These questions are more than a mystery. They're an invitation to reflect on international maritime threats and the shared responsibility of protecting those who depend on the sea to survive. Despite the happy ending for the 6 kidnapped crew members, many questions remain. Why did the pirates abandon the ship? How did they choose whom to kidnap? And, most importantly, how can we prevent stories like this from happening again? These questions are more than a mystery. They're a critical reminder to reflect on international maritime threats and the shared responsibility of protecting those who depend on the sea for their livelihoods. And what about you? What would you do in a situation like this? How would you react when facing pirates at sea or seeing your life change in a matter of minutes? Share your thoughts in the comments and share this video with anyone who enjoys real mysteries related to the sea and its secrets. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories like this. And if you want to keep exploring mysteries, click on the video appearing on the screen. A big hug, and see you in the next sea story.